And that's $1,000,000 question. Jesus saying, what do you want me to do for you? Wow. Think of the number of things that we'd probably say. What do you want me to do for you? We'll get to your answer later on. But let's look at the scriptures. There's a relationship, believe it or not, between that first reading, which is from the prophet Jeremiah, celebrating the people coming back to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, after the Babylonian captivity of many, many generations. And this was written before the actual return. So it was like a joyful march, an encouragement, like a pep rally. Come on, guys and girls, we're all going back to heaven. We're all going back to the Holy Land. We're all going. As a matter of fact, you know how we were messed up and people hated us and our whole nation was destroyed? We're going back as the head of all nations. Think of that, the irony going back. It was destroyed. In their terminology, one stone wasn't upon another stone. The Babylonians had totally destroyed Jerusalem. We're going back and we're going to be the top nation of the world. Why? Because God will bring us back. The Lord, Yadonai, will bring us back. And some of the people said, thanks, but no thanks. Actually, people chose to stay in Babylon. They knew what they had, whether they were poor or they had a job or they had housing or didn't. They knew what they had. They didn't know what was back there in Jerusalem. So not everyone returned. And he calls out to those who do return, the Lord delivered the remnant of his people. Now, as a kid, my mother... she always did, not only as a kid. My mother sewed, and my grandmother sewed too. That's how they made, my grandmother made money when she first came over from Europe, from Italy, how she could afford to, supply the family with bread and food and all that good stuff. And she used to take these big bundles of clothing pieces, okay? Like one day she'd get sleeves, ladies' clothes. Another day she'd get the skirt bottom. And sometimes she would be hired to cut out a pattern, okay? And I was a kid, and what I have to play with? Well, that was left over. So she would get the remnants of what was cut up, and she would put them aside, and I would play with them. I would make things. it doesn't matter what I made, but I made things with them. Because you think I was probably weird. Anyway, I played with them. I made tents and all this kind of stuff. Bandanas, so we can go play outside with the kids. But there were remnants, leftovers, useless piece of material. God, Yahweh, is bringing the remnant of his people home. Those who are part of the full fabric of the family, but the main part of the fabric stayed behind. And those who chose to trust him. I mean, you had to trust God. There was no internet. There was no call ahead, see what the conditions are like. There was no Twitter, things are nice here in Jerusalem. No, none of that. And it was hundreds of miles away. So they had to rely on the leadership of the people that they were listening to and hope and pray that those people were inspired by God, Yahweh, to bring them home. So they were the remnant, the leftovers. Keep that in mind in our own society. No one is not worth something. Every little piece is worth something. And every person is part of the whole. So we might be remnants, but we're still part of the whole. And we still have value. That's not the main focus of today's readings. The main focus is how they left in tears. They left lame. They left with nothing. And God is bringing them back so they won't even stumble. They were thirsty. There's going to be water galore. They were blind and they're going to see. They were crippled and God will pick them up. Will all these blind people suddenly see visually like we do? or the crippled people suddenly start dancing. It didn't come to fruition that way. But what they saw and what they danced about will come to fruition. The temple, the ability to worship, the ability to practice their faith, the ability to be free and enjoy that. And there's no picture of that. There's an experience of that. Okay, so we go to Jesus. Now this is funny because there's a lot of relationship. The blind man is a key feature in this section of Bartimeus. Bartimeus is a blind man, son of fear or son of encouragement. We don't quite know, but Bart, B-A-R, is a son of. So Timaeus. And there's several roots of the word Timaeus. So we don't have to get caught into that yet. Jesus is leaving Jericho. Now, Jericho is not just another city. Jericho was one of the main cities that was destroyed when the Israelites first came to the Holy Land. And you know the story, they blew the horns around the city of Jericho and the walls kept falling in. There's even a song I think we all know from grammar school, Bible study. But the idea was the sinful city of Jericho fell and the people of Israel could come and experience freedom. Now, how it fell, read history and read the archaeological scientists and their assessment of that. The fact that it fell, and this is important, how we see things, very important. All of our scriptures are written that way. The scriptures are not fortune-telling cookies. You don't open up, this is going to happen. No, the scriptures are written this way, looking to the past. This Gospel of Mark is written that way. Not on the spot. It wasn't live writing while this is going on. It's afterwards. Because none of it made sense, especially the New Testament, none of it made sense while Jesus was alive. It only made sense once he died and resurrected. It was like whoa! Everybody finally realized everything he did led up to the resurrection. Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus is alive. So let's get those stories and write them down. So you got Mark, you got Luke, you got John, you got Matthew, all writing down the stories as they heard them, as they were passed on to them. And we have Mark today. So Mark is the shortest and probably one of the first good news written stories, gospel stories. So you have Jesus knowing that Bartimaeus is there, a blind man, seems to have been passing him by. The blind man, of course, when one sense is diminished and other senses, they say, are sort of spiked. And he hears that it's Jesus, and he calls out. Now, a blind man could do nothing. The only thing he could do was beg. Okay, whether he had a family or not, all he could do is beg. No one was going to hire him. You can't send him out in the fields. You can't have him tend sheep. So he would beg for a living. And you know this as well as I do. Certain people who are still on the street have one set of clothing. And that's what they wear. Well, that was his identification as a blind man. Whatever clothing he wore was his identification as a blind man. The only thing he had. And that was his spot from Jericho, the formerly sinful city. Here is this man bathed in darkness, very significant. Close your eyes for a second. What do you see? Nothing. And that's what he could see. But he heard that it was Jesus, son of David. This is prior to Jesus being shouted at by the people of Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. If you read this, just another chapter or two ahead, and you'll realize son of David was shouted out by the masses of people. So this little blind guy has so much insight and more. So he's there at the gate begging. He hears this Jesus and he calls out, "Son of David, have mercy on me. Son of David, have pity on me." He said, "Yo, son of David." And he probably feared that his voice would get covered up with the crowd. As a matter of fact, they're telling him, shh, be quiet. This is Jesus. He don't want no dirty people near him. This is Jesus. Get. Doesn't that get to your heart? Then you think of like a saint like Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who actually went to the poorest of the poor in Calcutta and ministered to them as if they were Jesus. She said, I would see the face of Jesus on every person I ministered to. It's the only way it's going to make sense. Otherwise, get away from me, you're dirty. Get away from me, you got leprosy. Get away from me, you're this or that. But Christians have a special insight. We see Jesus on one another. The blind man is teaching us this today. Well, hang on. So Jesus calls him over. Probably the most awesome question in Scripture. God saying to every one of us, what do you want me to do for you? My God, think of what you'd say. His requests were minimal. This, I want sight. And what did Jesus do? Didn't touch him, didn't spit on his hands, didn't put mud on his eyes like he's done before, didn't make a big scene. Go! Your faith has saved you. The word for save and the word for healing is the same derivation in Aramaic. So he's saying, your faith healed you. And the guy got up. And what did he do with his cloak? He threw it away. And what did he do? He followed Jesus up the road. Now, think about this. We know this guy's name, Bartimeus. Probably, we can only surmise, that Mark, when he wrote this gospel, knew Bartimeus, or of him, or Bartimeus was still alive. Why else would he'd include his name and his occupation? He made him famous. As long as the gospel is read until the end of time, you will know about Bartimeus, the blind man who sees Jesus. And once he strips off his former way of life, the begging rag, he follows Jesus. And not only does he follow Jesus, as I said before, where's Jesus going? To Jerusalem, to the cross. He's following the full message of Jesus. This begging nobody teaches us what to do. Once Jesus touches us, once Jesus has answered you in some way, not a miraculous, give me a brand new job, or give me a mansion, or give me a yacht. No. When you know Jesus, and you know he's with you, in your prayer, in your life, I say your, what am I saying your for? Our. When we know Jesus, we know him. That's it. We know him. Confidence, of course. Doubt? Yeah, we're people. Will it always be our way? Not necessarily, because it's Jesus' way. He gave us a great prayer, your will be done, in the Lord's Prayer, for a reason. So Bartimaeus teaches us that once you see Jesus and Jesus sees you, strip off the old life and follow him. Even if the old life is yesterday, today's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. Strip off the things that keep you away from Jesus. Strip off the things that make you prejudiced. Strip off the things that cause you to curse. Strip off the things that cause you to envy other people. Get rid of all that garbage, that old raggy lifestyle. I don't care if the raggy lifestyle is you're a millionaire or you're a beggar on the street. Strip off all that. Once you know Jesus, you strip off all that and follow him up the road. And you know where it goes. It goes to the cross. It's not saying, oh, let's follow Jesus. We're going to be the conquerors of Jerusalem. We're going to be the new... No. Jesus is Jesus. He came to us to show us the full direction of his road, the full message, the cross and resurrection. There's a reason we follow this guy. Because he's not just a guy born in the flesh. He was indeed. But he conquered the thing that none of us could conquer, death, by his obedience to the Father. And he remains with us. He remains with us. So you and I can speak to Jesus right now, as we are, by the way, speak to Jesus right now, and he hears us. We can all make our communion prayer to Jesus. He hears all of us. You could be out on Manhattan or this island or on the water, and he hears us. And when he hears us, he's saying at the same time, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do for you? And I'd be embarrassed to say, oh, I want my pockets filled with gold. I want a yacht. I want a... There's an idea in psychology, it's called positive psychology. It came up mid-century. The root of positive psychology is no thing can make us happy. The happiness comes from within, and how we look at things, how we perceive things, and how we relate to things in our lives. So money can't make us happy. It's how we perceive it, what we do with it, how we take it and access it into our lives. And the more we share of our perception, the richer we will be. This is positive psychology. It's not Jesus. It is Jesus. But it's positive psychology. Share the good stuff and you'll get more. Remember St. Francis? Make me an instrument of your peace. Okay? It's only giving what we receive. It's all Jesus. It's all Jesus. I mean, you got to realize, he's the Son of God. He came to earth so that you and I could know him. I mean, this is a direct line between us and God, Jesus Christ. What do you want me to do for you? If you're crippled, I could say, I want to walk better. But I could also say, I don't want to curse my crippledness. If I'm blind, I don't want to envy those who see. I want to use my blindness to grow. Poverty? I don't want to be a tag, a label, a poor person. I want to use my poverty to enrich my faith. This is what Jesus wants to hear. This is what Jesus did for us himself. So this blind man teaches us the way to go. Isn't that ironic? The blind man whose name is immortalized in Holy Scripture teaches you and me how to see.